All right, everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're going somewhere a little spicy, shall we say.
Oh, yeah.
We're talking all things anal. Now, before anyone gets squeamish, we're all adults here.
Right.
This is a judgment-free zone.
Absolutely.
So let's dive right in, shall we? Our source material today is an episode of the Sex with Emily podcast.
Oh, yeah, I love that show.
She's great, isn't she? Well, in this episode, she's talking to Dr. Evan Goldstein, who, is like the anal surgeon.
Oh, wow.
So, needless to say, we're getting the expert lowdown today.
Like straight from the source.
Exactly. He goes into all sorts of things like, prepping for anal play.
Oh, interesting.
Best practices for safety and pleasure, all that good stuff. Oh, and he even mentions this thing called a lube shooter.
A lube shooter. Okay, I have so many questions about that.
Don't worry, we'll get there. But first, let's start with the basics.
Okay.
Dr. Goldstein really emphasized communication and preparation.
Yeah.
I mean, that's important for anything, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially when it comes to something new like this, you got to be on the same page.
Couldn't agree more. And, if anyone's looking for more tips on communication in general.
Oh, yeah.
Emily's website has a ton of resources on that.
It's a goldmine.
It is. Okay, so now let's get down to the nitty-gritty. How do you actually get started with anal play safely and comfortably?
Well, Dr. Goldstein stresses the importance of easing into it.
Right.
It's not a race.
Definitely not.
He talks about relaxation techniques, like deep breaths, a warm bath, anything to kind of get your body relaxed.
Makes sense. I mean, being tense is never helpful.
Exactly. And then, of course, there's lubrication.
Oh, yeah. Can't forget the lube.
Absolutely essential. And this is where the lube shooter comes in.
Okay, yes. Tell me more about this lube shooter. It sounds very...
It does sound intense, but it's really not that complicated.
Yeah.
It's basically a syringe.
It's a syringe?
Yeah, but specifically designed for anal play. So it helps distribute the lube really evenly and gently.
Oh, I see. So it's all about making things as smooth and comfortable as possible.
Exactly. Speaking of smooth, let's not forget about hygiene.
Right. Cleanliness is key.
Absolutely. It's crucial for both safety and enjoyment.
And this is where I thought Emily asked a hilarious question.
Oh, yeah, totally.
She was like, can you be too clean down there?
Uh-huh. It's funny, but it's actually a valid question.
Right. Because you don't want to disrupt the natural balance.
Exactly. Using harsh soaps or douching too much can really irritate things.
So what does a good hygiene routine look like in this case?
Think of it like washing your eyes.
Oh, okay.
You want to be super gentle. Use a mild, unscented soap-warm water and a gentle touch.
Got it. No need to go overboard.
Exactly. And of course, with anything new you try, especially something like this, there are always risks involved.
Right. Safety first. So what should people be aware of?
Well, STIs are a big one.
So practicing safe sex is just as important here as anywhere else.
Exactly. Condoms are your best friend.
Got it. And I guess regular testing, too, is a good idea no matter what you're doing.
Absolutely. It's just good sexual health practice in general.
For sure. Are there any other, specific things to consider for the different roles,
Oh, yeah.
topping or bottoming?
For those who are topping, hygiene is super important, like washing hands, thoroughly cleaning any toys before and after.
Right, can't be too careful.
And for bottoming, it's important to be aware of any existing conditions, like hemorrhoids or fissures, because anal play could make them worse.
Makes sense. I guess open communication with your partner about any concerns is really key.
Absolutely. Now let's talk about the fun part.
Yeah, let's get to the pleasure.
Right. So Dr. Goldstein mentioned that the anus has a lot of nerve endings.
Oh, wow.
Which means it has a lot of potential for pleasure.
I see.
But he also emphasized that it takes patience and understanding, to really figure out what works best for you and your partner.
So it's about being mindful and taking your time.
Exactly. And that's where toys can come in.
Oh, yeah, toys.
He talked about anal beads, butt plugs, even prostate stimulators.
Yeah, there's a whole world out there.
He recommends starting with smaller sizes and working your way up.
That makes sense. You don't want to jump in the deep end right away.
Right. Start slow and build up to what feels comfortable.
Exactly. And of course, this is just the tip of the iceberg.
Oh, yeah. There's so much more to explore.
If you want to learn more about anal play, Emily's website is a great resource, and Dr. Goldstein has his own platform, too.
Definitely. Don't be afraid to do your research.
Absolutely. Okay. As we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave everyone with something to think about.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked a lot about the practical side of anal play, but what about the emotional and relational aspects?
Ooh, that's an interesting question.
Right, because ultimately, it's not just about the physical act. It's about the connection you have with your partner.
Definitely.
How does it impact your intimacy? Does it bring you closer? Or are there any new challenges that come up?
I think that's such an important thing to consider.
It is. It's about going deeper than just the physical.
It really gets to the heart of what human sexuality is all about.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah.
It's complex and personal, and there's no right or wrong answer.
Absolutely. It's about finding what works for you and your partner and communicating openly.
Always prioritizing safety and pleasure, of course.
Exactly. And remember, it's always okay to say no set boundaries and go at your own pace.
Absolutely. There's no pressure, just exploration and enjoyment.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
All right, well, I think we've covered a lot of ground today.
We really have.
From prepping for anal play to exploring the potential risks and rewards, and even touching on the emotional nuances. I hope this deep dive has been informative and maybe even sparked some curiosity.
I think it has. It's been a great conversation.
And as always, do your own research, talk to healthcare professionals if you need to, and most importantly, listen to your body.
Yes, listen to your body.
Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and stay playful.
And safe. You know, it's amazing when you think about it. All the stuff we just kind of accept as normal when it comes to sex.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Especially with something like anal play, there's so much baggage.
So much. It's like everyone's supposed to know everything already.
Right.
But most of us are just figuring it out as we go.
Exactly. And that's why I think resources like Emily's podcast and Dr. Goldstein's work are so important.
I agree.
They're really helping to normalize these conversations.
Yeah, and give people the information they need to make their own choices.
Exactly. About their bodies and their pleasure.
Right, and it's so great to have experts who are willing to talk about these things openly and honestly.
It really makes a difference.
It does.
Yeah.
So I guess what we were saying is that anal play, like any sexual experience, is a very personal journey.
Absolutely.
That works for one person, might not work for another.
And that's totally okay.
It is. It's all about communication, exploration, and finding what feels good for you and your partner.
Couldn't agree more.
And if you're curious to learn more, don't be afraid to check out the resources we mentioned.
Yeah, there's so much good information out there.
Knowledge is power, right?
Absolutely. Especially when it comes to our bodies.
It's so true. All right, well, I think we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive.
We have.
We talked about prepping for anal play, hygiene, communication, consent.
Even the emotional side of things.
Right, which can be just as important as the physical stuff.
Definitely.
So hopefully our listeners have come away with a better understanding of anal play.
I hope so. It's a fascinating topic.
It is. And if there's one thing to remember, it's that pleasure is a journey, not a destination.
Such a good point.
So be curious, be adventurous, and most importantly, be safe.
Words to live by.
And that's a wrap on our deep dive into all things anal.